Boom! We are live for the Marketing Qualified Rundown. This is Next Level Nick here, and you guys might be wondering, there's no Swedish fish today. The fish is a little under the water, under the weather. So
the water, good.
Under the water. So we have Darren, the American fish, joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for our viewers expecting the Swedish fish today, so you're stuck with the good old American fish, the American trout today.
But I'm confident that the American fish, American trout, will deliver, and we'll have a good time. So we're going to dive right into it. We've got two good topics today from Marketing Qualified. We're going to talk about next level audience segmentation. You're going to be like, next level, what? And then we're going to talk about 3 ways to improve your copywriting, which I feel like copywriting is a topic almost every week in every LinkedIn post I see or email newsletter I get. Lots of stuff out there about copywriting, especially with AI, but these are some good tips and tricks. So let's jump into it. Darren, what next level audience segmentation? What the heck is that?
Yeah, the first thing I think of when I hear next level segmentation is, well, are we just drilling down further, right? Like, are we just getting more specific with who we're talking to? And that's not it at all, right? What we're talking about is, okay, great. You segmented your audience so that you could market to individual parts of your database, individual contacts, right? But next, taking this to the next level is talking about, okay, great. We've got this segmented. How do we now speak to these folks more directly and create content and creative that actually impacts specific audiences? I think a lot of times marketers are scared to do this because they don't want to alienate anyone. They say, oh my gosh, I want to speak to my entire audience. But sometimes taking a little bit of risk and getting more specific with how you're segmenting or talking to that audience can actually have the impact of speaking more directly to them.
Yeah, this is a great example. I mean, and again, risky, right? This is a risky thing, especially in the B2B space. But this example, if you know what a floppy disk is, it may be time for cancer screening. This is a great example of segmenting by age. So obviously, I am a little older than Darren, the American fish. So I used a floppy disk in my life. I'm sure Darren maybe has not.
Once or twice.
But this is a great example of you're getting very, very specific about who you're targeting, and it's okay, right? You're alienating younger people, but that's okay because that's what they're really trying to do.
Yeah, they don't.
Right?
I mean, they probably don't care about that, right? That's not who they're trying to talk to anyway. So.
That's not who they're trying to talk to. So another good way, I guess, way to segment is by job role, right? So great example here.
I love this one. I think this is hilarious because, yes, here it's saying now that we've got the attention of people that work in marketing by our serial, but even folks that don't work in marketing, sales, of course, anybody who has ever dealt with marketing in any capacity will understand this joke. So it's humorous. It serves the purpose of talking to a specific audience, but it's not like it's alienating everyone either.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's still, again, segmenting by job role, and you could do this with anything, right? You could target, you could target a lot of different job roles, but just a good example here. So another way to segment is around price, and this is a great example. Obviously, this is B2C versus B2B, but the focus on Maker's Mark, they're focusing in on they don't obviously want college kids. They don't want people that are going to be cheap, right? So yeah, this is segmentation by price.
This reminds me of a couple of weeks ago. We in Marketing Qualified, one of the things we talked about was exclusivity as well, right? Like, it kind of ties back into that too, of, hey, we're not for everybody, and that's a good thing, but are we for you? And that's kind of what this brings it back to. So yeah, they're not going for the people who are, looking for some cheap whiskey on the weekends here. It's a different audience that they're trying to go after, and it kind of serves that purpose of like, hey, we are a little bit more exclusive, but that's what makes us good.
Yeah. I'm going to show one more example that I think is great. This is in the B2B space. So this is a new ad campaign from Juniper Networks, and I think this is a segmentation. I mean, I think Juniper's taking a risk, and I think it's paying off really well for them, just based on what I've seen online. But this is segmentation by, I think, both gender and by job role, right? So this is very specifically targeting people in the IT industry, which sometimes is more male dominated in different roles in a technical space. I think if you guys are not familiar with this character, she was from Mad Men. But I think, again, just another way to do segmentation. And at the end of the day, marketing is around getting people to talk about ads and talk about things. And if you look on Reddit or you look at other things, I would say Juniper is getting more awareness. And I see some of the comments like, hey, I didn't know what Juniper Networks was, but now I do. Like, so no matter what whether it may offend some people or not offend some people, the act of marketing, of trying to get people to talk about your company, again, it's another way to do true audience segmentation. So
I think my big takeaway from this topic is, you hear segmentation is obviously not new. Everyone in marketing knows segmentation and probably has done it in some capacity in their business. But usually we see that it stops beyond, okay, well, we've separated our audience and we've sent out a couple specific emails or a couple email campaigns. But this is, by taking it to the next level, is let's actually create real good creative content that's going to speak to that audience, and it can pay off.
For sure. All right, so that's next level audience segmentation. All right, we're gonna jump to really the copywriting tips and tricks. So we got a couple on here that I think are really, really great. They're 3 tips. I do this myself. It's funny that it's we featured it this week. So one of the big tips is read it out loud and read it fast when you're reviewing copy. I think I do this a lot, especially if I'm going to be presenting something or even an email. So a lot of times, if you do read it out loud and you get tongue-tied, you get bored, you get confused, and you're just tripping over yourself, let's be honest, that's where the reader's going to have the same damn problem.
Yeah, this is tough for me. This is something I've always struggled with, is, let me just write this email, or let me put together this PowerPoint. And then when you're actually doing it, you're like, oh my gosh, I clearly didn't read this out loud, because it doesn't flow. One thing that I've started doing is reading it out to my child, my 1-year-old, and she'll say, Dad, that did not flow. No, I'm just kidding. She doesn't talk like that. But it puts into my head like, okay, I just did this out loud and something's not working right here. So I think we've all heard this tip before, but it's just a good reminder. It really does improve your content and make it more colloquial or everyday language.
Yeah, it's a really great tool. And I mean, obviously we use AI a lot now to read and QA things. I mean, that's another way to not necessarily read it out loud, but to check. And, you can easily catch spelling errors too when you're reading it out loud, because you start saying it, it's like, what? So it's again, great tip to do. Read out loud and read it fast. All right, what's the second tip?
So the next one we've got focusing on formatting. And this is, again, we all know this, we all do this. If you've looked at our newsletter, if you have a newsletter or anything like that, by having line breaks, by having headers, by separating with different fonts, text, things like that, it can be all the difference in how the message is actually received, right? So you've got a block of text that's very different than having bullet points, than having succinct paragraphs. Again, this is something that we all know, we all do, but if you're not checking for it, you can see that it can be very hard to digest all this stuff that's in front of you if it's not formatted correctly.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just, people have such short attention spans now, and even those people that really do like to really dig in, make it easy, right? Reduce the friction of what you're reading. Otherwise, you're not going to get there.
Yeah, I think sometimes this can be tough to do on the first pass, because it can be hard to say, like, all right, I'm going to write one sentence that's got 4 lines, and I'm going to do 2 spaces and do another sentence and then do 2 spaces. And it will be like, why am I doing this? This feels like I'm writing to a child that like has the attention span. But truly, you are trying to capture someone's attention. People, especially if they're scrolling through something like a newsletter or an article, they're not going to sit there and read pages and paragraphs of an essay. So it can feel tough to do, I think, at the beginning. But once you get it formatted correctly, it really can be the difference between somebody reading your content and somebody not reading your content.
All right, the last tip is, I love this one. I'm a big fan of this in both written and verbal things, remove the fluff. Remove the fluff words, right? So really, very, that, just things that are just filler words, fluff words, whatever they are. They're not necessary. And you can catch these sometimes when you do read it aloud. And I think you can also use AI to literally say remove fluff words, and it can pull some of that out there. So, but I think, Darren, I mean, you look at a lot of emails too, and I mean, we see a lot of this in writing.
This is something I have to work on for myself a lot. And Nick can attest to this. Anybody else on our team and anybody out there watching this who's talked to me, I'm a storyteller. I like to drag things out. When I do my first pass at anything, whether it's an email or actually writing a blog or something like that, I definitely find myself putting in these filler words. Like I just said, definitely right there. Probably wasn't necessary. But I know we're talking about copywriting. I think a good tip here is have somebody else read it too, and just say, hey, can you, or use ChatGPT and say, remove the fluffy words. I've literally used that prompt in ChatGPT. Can you take out the fluff here and just say what I need to say, right? Like that's what we're trying to get accomplished here.
All right, so those are the 3 tips for copywriting today. Use those, and hopefully your copy and your speaking will be a little bit better. So let's close out with the meme of the week. What do you think of this one, Darren? Is it you?
What my favorite part of this meme is the old iPhone that looks like the 2nd generation iPhone 3G or whatever. So it's just funny that this meme has been around for, I don't know, what is that, 20
and I think it's a calculator watch too, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh yeah, there you go. One of the old Casios or something.
Old school. So
yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's the Marketing Qualified rundown for today. Thank you, Darren, the American Fish, for jumping in and helping out today, giving us insights. If you do not subscribe, go to marketingqualified.co and sign up. And until next time, we will see you later.
See you later. Have a great weekend.